I chose to research Sybil Ludington for this discussion post, and most people will know her as the female Paul Revere. Sybil's father, Henry Ludington, was a colonel in charge of the 7th Regiment Dutchess County Militia. Now, Dutchess County would later be incorporated with Putnam County, New York. According to author Vincent Aquino, quote, Henry's major task was to prevent the Tories from bringing goods from Long Island Sound to Connecticut and vice versa, end quote. It was April 1777 and it was planting season. Therefore, militiamen were scattered, busy at work on their own farms. An unnamed messenger made it to Colonel Ludington's farm and informed him that British troops were destroying Danbury, Connecticut. The exhausted messenger could go no further. Sybil's father told her to take her horse and ride to the farms of the militiamen and tell them to meet him at daybreak. 16-year-old Sybil rode through the countryside in the dark of night, rallying her father's troops. She rode 40 miles that night. But like Betsy Ross, there are many who claim that Sybil's midnight ride is folklore, while others defend the teenage revolutionary. So what made Sybil different? Why does her story endure? Sybil Ludington was a 16-year-old girl who grew up on a farm. Why does she stand out? The Daughters of the Revolution, the Enoch Crosby chapter, like to remind visitors to Putnam County that Sybil rode farther than Paul Revere and she didn't get captured like Paul Revere. A 16-year-old girl is unthreatening. She's not a soldier. And if she can do something so harrowing and brave, I think many people like to think, or we like to think that we could too. It's like Sybil was one of us. Why has her story been so widely accepted? Like stories surrounding Betsy Ross, stories about Sybil have seemed to be accepted without question. These stories have been used to instill patriotism into citizens and school children. And the topic of patriotism always seems to come up more during times of war in an effort to help bring the country together and to support the war effort. Martha Nussbaum, in her journal article, Teaching Patriotism, notes, quote, in patriotic emotion, citizens embrace one another as a family of sorts, sharing common purposes. Thus, stigma is overcome. Emotion is needed to get people to see the whole as a whole rather than a balkanized set of ordered parts in a hierarchy, end quote. Basically, the economic, the social, the racial, class distinctions, all of those things disappear. We see Americans as Americans during, that's the purpose of teaching patriotism, is you've got the common goal, and the common goal is the country. How important was it to have a famous female from the American Revolution? Paula Hunt wrote that social history was emerging in the 1960s and 70s. Many historians and scholars, they look for subjects in ordinary people. They sought to study especially women and minorities because they had been overlooked for so long. And they wanted to answer the questions of what was their experience like during this time period. And why haven't writing challenging the validity of the legend affected the public's praise of Sybil Ludington? And Hunt also talks about that although there seems to be this disconnect between the historical record and popular imagination, that Sybil's persistent popularity shows the value that Americans find in history. It's this shared history that bonds us as Americans. Thank you.